November in Florida is known for being an odd month of cool and warm days, with the mornings usually starting out gray and foggy. But that's not stopping us from making the drive to the tracks to do yet another Saturday morning outing. Not expecting too much, we start in CSX's Yeoman Yard and immediately hear a train calling the dispatcher preparing to depart Rockport Yard and head into Tampa on its way to the Bone Valley. Our train would be B339, a phosphate shuttle between Rockport and Mosaic's mining facilities in Agrock. I've seen this train many times, but it's a train that without exception has 6-axle power, and on a Saturday morning, it's a nice catch. By the time I got the drone up, the aspect of the signal known as TS was showing a high green for 339. TS is the switch that can either line northbound trains into Yeoman Yard or right around them, that being the track that it's lined for this morning, which is known as the bypass. B339 is taking this track today because he doesn't work Yeoman and the bypass has a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit, which quickens up operations like these, negating the need to crawl through the yard limits. Standing at TS, I noticed these peculiar devices flanking the tracks. These white boxes mounted on poles are called AEIs, which is short for Automatic Equipment Identification. Built by Amtech, these are commonly seen near yards as they're used for classification of all moving equipment that pass them. About 25 years ago, railroads began attaching little metal tags to the side of their rolling stock in locomotives. Now, every time a car passes, the AEI scans the tag, giving live updates to customers and the railroad of the speed and location of the car. It's also used as classification of car types. This is very helpful when a yardmaster gets a list of cars of a certain train, as the scanners will organize and count the cars and instantly send the information to the yardmaster's desk. The AEIs would be put to work today as B339 climbs the hill out of the swamplands that surround Palm River and onto the southernmost portion of the S-Line. Two shiny rebuilt CM44ACs would power this shuttle today, with the consist being entirely made up of these new open-top black hopper cars. This would be my first time seeing these, and wow, do they look sharp. I'm guessing these are already transporting wet rock between mines and ports, but that's just a guess. With B339 clear, we'd listen for anything else on the radar for about half an hour. Driving parallel to the Tampa terminal sub, which that B339 was on, we drive back north with news of a yard job departing Tampa.
Pull out of YN, down the bypass, pull mine back into Rockport, you say?
Alright, so we were just in Sutton, but now we're heading north towards Palm River. We got some type of a Y150 or Y191, something like that. That should be coming out of Tampa soon and going towards Rockport, which is actually, we're about to pass the stem of the Rockport Y.
Okay, alright, coming to you. Here we go, miss. Right. Yep.
So we're going to probably try to get it at Palm River. We're going to go ahead and set up there and see what we can get. Pulling into Palm River, we can see the holdout signal is displaying a medium approach slow, telling our local Y150 to proceed through the turnouts not exceeding medium speed. The aspect would tell us that this train would be diverging off the main and into the siding at Sutton to obtain access to the Rockport Y and the yard. The power for today's Y150 would be CSX 2704, an EMD Jeep 38-2 built for SEL 42 years ago in March of 1980. And as uninteresting as this catch would be now, we'll see this train again in the not-too-distant future. Radio chatter caused us to drive around for a bit, but after searching and catching nothing, we drove north towards Ybor City. Not much runs here anymore, at least during the day, except for the twice daily Amtrak moves through here. And with the closest Amtrak being in Palatka, north of Orlando, we'd look for a spot where some kind of freight move would be possible to see. 4th Avenue would be our decided spot, as we got word over the radio that local L755 was preparing to depart Yeoman and head north and west towards Drew Park, an industrial area in North Tampa. We're set up and waiting about 500 feet from a railroad diamond known as TN. This is where the Tampa Terminal Sub crosses the Clearwater Sub. Both lines are in regular use, with the Tampa Terminal Sub seeing 2 Amtraks daily and a local a handful of times a week. The Clearwater Sub is the perpendicular track, crossing on its way north. The Clearwater Sub is a line rich with history, as like the Tampa to Bradenton AZA line, it's a joint line of 2 railroads. North from Tampa to Sulphur Springs, the trackage is ex-seaboard and continues through the junction all the way up to Brooksville. It becomes the Brooksville Sub at Sulphur Springs, where the Clearwater Sub swings onto the ex-Atlantic Coastline trackage running through Oldsmar, Largo, and Clearwater, with the end of track being only a mile away from Tropicana Field in downtown St. Petersburg. About halfway between Tampa and Clearwater is Drew Park, where L755 is destined for today.
We're going to go with the normal again. NASTN to SY855 and the one switch SY853.7 if we could. Over.
EC1 number 73019, 73019, 110522, S841.0, L755052544, Pacerno copying. Triple line 1A, main track both directions. NASTN on the main. SY855.0 on the main. Triple line 11 appeal switch SY853.7.
The clear signal at TN would guarantee 755's departure, and in a matter of minutes, he'd be rounding the 90-degree curve northbound. Another old Seaboard Jeep 38-2, number 2544, leading this one-car consist today. .755 would disappear into the populace of East Tampa, which cued our departure from TN. It was now just after 10:30 in the morning, and with Amtrak again 3 hours late, and the Jews train just now leaving Bradenton, there would be another lull. Or so we thought. Beginning our drive south towards Gibsonton, I looked through the trees and buildings between 50th Street and the tracks to see a train of hoppers pulling north, presumably out of Rockport. So we'd whip a U-turn around to one of my go-to spots along the AZA line, East Washington Street. Looking down the tracks, we can see the headlights of our hopper train, and soon over the radio we'd hear them call out a stop signal at Palm River Holdout. Now, Palm River Holdout used to be a more important signal when trains would have to wait for the bridge over the river to line and lock into place. But now that the Palm River Bridge is no longer in service, trains usually just roll past this signal. So how come it's holding out our local today? Well, in order for this train to access Yeoman Yard, it has to use the track to the left at TS. And currently, that track would be occupied by yard job Y191. 191 would be finishing up his switching duties using that track for extra switching room. But in a matter of 10 minutes after our arrival, our local in question would call a clear signal at Palm River under the symbol of Y150, the same train of light power we saw this morning. A restricting at TS would greet Y150 into the yard, his massive train of 67 empty cement hoppers. This long cut of cement hoppers caught my attention, as these are the exact same cars that the Brooksville sublocal takes to CEMEX in Brooksville. 2-bay, gray-covered hoppers with CMEX reporting marks. I guess we'll see if these cars will ever make it up to Brooksville. I'm not sure if these cars were in storage in Rockport or there's just a massive cement industry somewhere in the yard limits that had to be empty. I clearly have to do some more research, and soon. Practically the moment Y150 got into the yard, Y191 called the dispatcher to head south to Rockport, and once again, Palm River holdout displayed a medium approach slow. This would be our last train of the day, and how fitting for it to be yet another local. Y191 would be heading south with some miscellaneous freight for Rockport, along with some cars for industries that reside along the Palm River spur. At this point, the juice train was still about an hour away, and with the 191 having the main to switch for the next 90 minutes, per the dispatcher, we knew nothing else was coming. So here, along the Tampa Terminal sub at milepost AZA 880.2, our day would end. Relatively successful, I think, catching some new and old trains in some wonderful locations. Usually this is where the video would end, but I have one more catch that I thought would be nice to attach onto the end. 6 days prior to this Tampa outing, I'd find myself in Lutz along the good old Brooksville sub. I had gotten word from a friend in Tampa that L781, the Brooksville local, had just cleared the diamond at TN around 1:30 p.m. Even though we had a fall festival to be at that afternoon, we had a small 10-minute time frame for this train to pass us. And if you've been watching my videos since summer, you'll know that I've been waiting on a daylight run of this guy for a shot of the train passing the old Seaboard Lutz depot. So, with the trees and depot in the foreground, L781 would come trundling through Lutz on his way north towards Spring Hill at exactly 3 p.m. All I can say is, this has to be one of my favorite catches ever. I thank all of you that tagged along with me for this rail fanning adventure, and I hope that you found some entertainment or information in this video. I had a good time as usual finding trains around the Tampa area. But until next time along the Florida High Iron, this is Christian from Multicolor Films. End of transmission.